All right, let's continue this conversation with Michael Coyne. He's our NECN legal analyst. And I asked Alicia, who knows, what kind of conversation really happened? For example, was it prompted or did he spontaneously say that no one should die like this? We'll never know.
Well, I think it's a very strategic move by the defense, and he was likely coached to tell her that he regrets this. I've said all along that he has to express remorse. The jury has to hear it, and it has to be sincere and heartfelt. What he's been able to do now is, through a surrogate, have his remorse or his regrets expressed to the jury without having to undergo the rigors of cross-examination. Some would argue that it's a coward's way out. If he really intended to express remorse, he could have taken the stand and been subject to cross-examination. Instead, he has a surrogate do it who would be very difficult to cross-examine. But nonetheless, the jury has now heard that he is, in fact, having regrets about the fate he put his victims through.
Emotionally, it's kind of the last bite at the apple after the incredible testimony that the prosecution brought forward about the many families, the victims, the extended family that was affected so much by this. She gets that final moment saying, essentially, this fellow is sorry and he thinks it shouldn't have been done. And yet, there is going to be closing arguments and then a possible rebuttal. What do you expect?
Well, I expect on the closing arguments we will again hear about the victims, the selectivity of the victims that he chose, the young victims, the police officers, all of the ones that go to the aggravating factors, the ones that indicate that this was a deliberate, premeditated maiming that took place at that finish line, and he intended to inflict great suffering, and that's precisely what he did. The defense will now tell us again that he's a young man with a free record other than this offense that is deserving of some leniency because of his tender years and the like. And all he needs is a single juror to agree with him. And I think that perhaps one juror might have gotten what they needed today from the sister's testimony.
Of course, we don't know that. We won't know it till after the testimony on Friday closing arguments. Let me ask you this question. It's been kind of conflicting in a way, I think, the way that the whole notion of the supermax prison, the life in jail. On the one hand, life in prison is worse than the death penalty, and they say it's this horrific place. And then today we hear testimony saying, well, it's not so bad. I mean, it can be civilized. You can get correspondence with people. They're playing every angle on this.
I agree with you on that. I thought that was enlightening, the testimony and rebuttal today, that there are, for some, a life in Supermax that some prisoners might find better than the death penalty. And I think the government, again, has portrayed that in a very realistic fashion that will appeal to some of the jurors who are in favor of the death penalty, is saying, listen, it's not as bad as it was originally painted. There is life after death. And in fact, they were even talking about that he could potentially write a book, have numerous visitors a month. Some who favor the death penalty will say that that's not such a punishment for some people.
A lot for this jury to consider. Thank you so much, Michael Coyne. Appreciate it.